What's up, guys? Well, welcome back to another episode here at the... Exactly. I really need to come up with a name or something to entice us a little bit better. So I think what I'm going to do is come up with a name or some names and have a vote on it. I'll get some suggestions and from comments or stories that I'll be posting out throughout this month. But I do legitimately need to come up with a name. But anyways, my name is Robert Bleski. I'm your host. And dude, what a week this has been already, especially for me. I went down to Chick on Tuesday and it was an absolutely beautiful day. I think it was like a high of 65, 70. I got there really early at the boat ramp. I launched out of Harrison Bay. And probably just before the sun started rising, there must have been like about 20 or 30 boats at the boat ramp already being launched. So I was just like, man, it's gonna be a busy day. And I tell you what, I don't know if Tuesday was just like a holiday or everybody just that lived in Tennessee, Georgia, or Bama decided to go to Chickamauga because, dude, it was absolutely insane. There were so many people on the water. Everywhere I basically went to, there was somebody, whether close to my brush piles that I've had marked in previous times that I've been there or close by. I couldn't figure much of a pattern. I did catch a bunch of fish, just a bunch of dinks. I think my best 5 came out to about maybe 10 pounds, but caught a couple perch, which I was just like, that's pretty cool because I've actually never caught a perch before. And I was pretty shocked because I thought perch typically live more north. But I know that Lake Blue Ridge here in Georgia, they do have yellow perch and also have walleye and large abundance of fish. So, but Chickamauga, it was a weird transition. The fish are kind of getting ready to move up shallow because we're starting to get a warming trend, and it was a little too soon for them to really start moving up and start bedding. So I decided to basically fish on the river and off the river mouths going into the creeks and stuff like that. And like I said, I caught a bunch of fish, a bunch on crankbait, on a 5XD, Shark King 5XD, on a shaky head, green pumpkin, trick worm. I was throwing a little swim bait protocol that I kind of cut and kind of make it my own little minnow thing. Other than that, that's pretty much all I caught on Tuesday. It was probably about 10, 11 pounds, but I did manage to catch almost a 30-pound flathead catfish. And I actually have a video of that, so I'm gonna go edit it, crop that out, edit it, and post that up. But it was pretty cool. Caught her on a 5XD, and I thought it was a giant bass. But you know, whenever you catch a big catfish, or if you snack something, you know how like you have that dead weight. And I knew right then and there, like with that dead weight and how it was just peeling line out like you were catching like a big shark or jewfish or a grouper. It's exactly how it happened. So I really wanted to salvage my crankbait, so I fought that thing for about, I don't know, 5-10 minutes and brought her in the boat. She weighed exactly 29.76 pounds. And I thought that was a giant, maybe close to a record. But I wasn't even close to being in a record at all. Because DNR stopped me like momentarily after I caught that fish, just check my license and do like a typical routine that they do. So I showed him the video of it on my GoPro and, you know, showed him the picture, and then I just randomly asked him, like, so what is the lake record or state record for a flathead catfish? The guy's like, dude, you're not even halfway there. It's 70 plus pounds. I was like, damn. My catfish was pretty big to me, but wasn't that big enough. So yeah, Chickamauga, that was an interesting event. The reason why I went there, I went pre-fishing for my event for a tournament that I'm going to be planning on fishing this weekend. And I went back another time to Chickamauga just for like a half day on Thursday, and I just really could not figure a big bite pattern. So I'm contemplating about fishing at a tournament this weekend just because I'm not very confident yet in fishing Lake Chickamauga and don't know if I want to go ahead and spend all that money to go ahead and fish an event and come up shorthanded. So I got two options. I can fish Lake Notley, which is like my home lake, which is 45 minutes away, and I've talked to you guys about this many times about that lake. It's one of my favorite lakes here in Georgia. I primarily fish that lake almost all the time. And I went there, when was it? Saturday morning, and caught fish. And I thought they would probably be moving up and start bedding, but the water temperature was like 53, 54 degrees. I mean, the highest I seen it was like maybe 57, and that's no shape or form for them to be moving up in the shallow areas to start bedding. So went back and tried to catch spots on my jerk baits and my swim bait, and I mean, I caught a good bag, but I know what it takes to win a lake. Excuse me. I know what it takes to win on Lake Notley, and you have to catch at least 1 or 2 good largemouth and have a good spotted bass bag. So 15 to 18 pounds is basically what you're looking for. I know once the spawning begins, it's going to take 20 to 25 plus pounds. My biggest bag there is 18 plus pounds, but I know I've seen guys bring in 25-pound bags, and I've heard rumors that they've had people have brought in 30-pound bags. So lake produces some big fish. My biggest fish there is a little bit over 7 pounds. Caught her during the tail end of the summertime on a topwater bait. But anyways, getting distracted, going off subject. Lake Chickamauga, cool lake. Just, I don't think it fishes the way it used to fish anymore. It's a lot different. It's still a really cool lake. I really want to like start learning it a little bit more, but I don't know. I'm contemplating whether to fish Chickamauga or Lake Notley for this Saturday's tournament. No, I just got to make a decision here soon. But anyways, some tournament news. Congratulations again to Joey Cifuentes on winning the 2nd Bassmaster Elite out of Lake Seminole. And again, guys, guess what happened? Forward-facing sonar was the key factor in winning that event. And it is becoming a trend. And yes, forward-facing sonar is taking over the world. There's nothing you can do about it. There's going to be a lot of big upgrades. I know Lowrance just came out with their Active Target 2, which I am in the works of processing getting that here soon. So I will let you guys know how that looks and how much clearer the imaging is and everything. I've read a lot of things about it, some pros and some cons. Really, the pros is just clear imaging. You can see further out. The cons is basically the glitches. And you know, anytime you get something new, a new software comes out, a new transducer, there's going to be some bugs. So you know, time will tell. But I think Lowrance is stepping up. From what I seen on YouTube, like Russell Marine puts a really good comparison on the Active Target 1, Active Target 2, and then the Active Target 2 with the new Garmin Live Scope. And they do the comparisons. It's pretty cool how they break it down. So if you guys ever want to take a chance on upgrading to an Active Target 2, go to Russell Marine. They give a pretty good breakdown on, you know, on the comparisons and stuff like that. But yeah, it's basically, that's what's happening, man. Forward-facing sonar is literally taking over everything. It happened in Lake Okeechobee with Tyler Rivet fishing a 4-day event. Happened over at Lake Seminole, and you know, typically Lake Seminole is, you know, especially that time of the year when they were spawning, you know, you fish shallow, so you typically are not really on your electronics as much as you should be if you were just fishing offshore. But you know, Joey, congratulations, man. That guy's a really, really cool guy, and I'm really happy for him to claim his first win in the Bassmaster Elites. And then another big event that happened, Dakota Ebrey. Well, again, he won another event at Clarks Hill. Clarks Hill, you know, I didn't really know about that lake until it was on the schedule for the MLF Invitationals, and it's only like about 3, maybe 4 hours away from the house. And dude, it produces some big fish, some decent. I mean, there are some good bags in that event. So, dude, congratulations again, Dakota Ebrey, winning his 2nd event. And you know, he was using forward-facing sonar to catch a lot of his fish, and obviously he was fishing on the shore, you know, power fishing. But again, guys, forward-facing sonar, if you do not have it, your chances of competing at a high level or winning event is slim to none. So start saving up your money, put some Django in your pocket, and go ahead and buy forward-facing sonar. So, and I feel like, you know, Joey Cifuentes and Dakota, they literally got more wins under their belt. They're young, they got the grind, and they're absolutely on fire right now. And anybody that's competing in the tournament with those two guys, you just better watch out in your rearview mirror. So the Bassmasters literally just got squared away, got finished. It was a 3-day event, but they ended up canceling day two. They ended up canceling day 2 due to the weather. So they let all the anglers fish both days. And Lake Eufaula was where the lake was at, or where the tournament was at. And Lake Eufaula, like I think I talked to you guys before, it's been one of my better lakes that I fished. I've only fished her once. Had that big tournament last year at the Race Scott Championship. Got 6 out of 150 plus anglers, and it's an absolutely fun lake to fish. So congratulations to Justin Barnes on claiming the first win of the first Bassmaster Opens this year, and he gets to go to the Bassmaster Classic next year. I think he won it with 48 plus pounds, 48 pounds and 9 ounces in the 2-day total. So congratulations again, Justin. Was it Justin Barnes? Justin Barnes, I'm reading it. Yep, Justin Barnes. All right, so guys, today is a really good show. I got to interview someone that I kind of looked up to, especially this past season at the MPFL. It was his first year, just like me. What's up, Gary? What's going on?
Not much, man. Getting ready for this next season.
Yeah,
Biting at the bit. Can't wait to get started.
You're looking forward to that. So what are you? You're staying. You're obviously in the hotel room.
Yep.
You're in Savannah right now for work business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. The company I work for, we've got 2 offices. One in Green Bay, Wisconsin, where I'm from, and we got one in Savannah, Georgia.
Nice. Have you done any touring around Savannah or anything?
Yes, I have. I've been with this company for 29 years, so I've spent a lot of time in Savannah over the years.
It's an awesome place. I like it. I've been there. I've been there a few times, and it's historically it's got a lot of, you know, historical things, you know, with the. I know that I did one of those drunk tours, the pub crawl thing, where they took you to each bar and sitting there drinking.
Oh, yeah.
And there's like 8.1 miles of underground, you know, tunnels in Savannah.
Yes.
It's just it's freaking awesome to imagine all that stuff, and you know, like a big Indian burial. That's basically what Savannah is sitting on top of a big Indian burial.
It is. Yeah, there's all kinds of like haunted mansions and all kinds of stuff.
It is. So it was pretty creepy, you know, being there, but at the end of the day, it was actually pretty cool. So yeah, Gary, you're from Green Bay, Wisconsin. You're a huge Packers fan, a business owner, MPFL Pro. This is going to be your 2nd season.
Yes.
Last year, you won the Angler of the Year. You won your first event in Saginaw. So you finally claimed your first shield. And I consider you a smallmouth king because I actually suck at smallmouth fishing. So,
and I love fishing smallmouth. That's my favorite thing to do.
I know. So just tell me a little bit about yourself, and I mean, just a little bit of the background, how you started competitive fishing, and
where
you at now.
Well, I'm originally from the UP of Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, the Escanaba, Beatty Knock area. I lived there till I was in my late teens. Moved to Green Bay. Been in Green Bay now for almost 40 years. As far as my fishing career, I actually was a walleye fisherman for many years. I fished competitively walleye fishing because there's a lot of good walleye fisheries up in my neck of the woods. I fished my first Sturgeon Bay Open probably around 1990, I would say, somewhere in that area. And I got hooked on bass fishing from that day on. When I hooked into that first smallmouth, it was over for me. I sold all my walleye stuff. I became a bass fisherman. I started with the local bass clubs, fished my way up through the Bass Nation. Then I jumped into the FLW, the Rayovacs, the Everstarts early on in my career, and actually did really well there. I actually qualified for the FLW Tour in 2006.
Wow.
And chose not to do it because I didn't feel I was ready financially, and I just didn't think I could compete with. I was fishing against the Lane brothers, Stacy King, um, a bunch of the big names that are still in it now, and I knew I was not ready on the largemouth side, so I chose not to do it. I stayed in the Bass Nation, the local clubs. In 2015, I won our state. I was a state champion in Wisconsin. I went to the Northern Divisional. I won that. I was the Northern Divisional champion. I went to the national championship through the Bass Station, and I really was 2 ounces away from fishing the Bassmaster Classic in 2016. I was that close. I was 2 ounces away. I got beat up by 2 ounces, so that hurt me a little bit. And then in 2019, I started fishing Bassmaster Opens. I did that for 3 years. Was very successful there. In 21, I had one bad day on Oneida Lake, which cost me making the Elite Series. I finished 10th in Angler of the Year, and I had a top. I finished 18th on the James. I finished top 6 on the St. Lawrence, but then I finished 90 something on Oneida Lake, and that hurt me. So I didn't make it. And the next year, I joined the NPFL, and the rest is history.
Yeah, well, yeah, you have a large journey, big journey of fishing. You've kind of been all over the place. Yeah, 2006, you got qualified for the FLW tour. That's crazy. I mean, if that you didn't take the challenge to it. I mean, knowing that you're going up against those guys, but I give you a lot of credit for it, because if you're not ready, mentally, it's just going to be hard to spend all that money and how it is nowadays, with the money and everything and stuff like that. If you don't feel like in your heart and your mind that you're not ready for it, it's hard to take the challenge. So.
Yes, that is correct. I mean, I had 2 daughters that were in their early teens. My wife and I were working full time, and I wasn't ready. I knew I wasn't ready, so I chose not to do it. And I think in the long run, it probably made me a better angler. Financially, I can fish now, and I'm just a few years away from retiring, and I'm really ready to hit it hard and just see how far I can take this thing now.
That's awesome. So yeah, last year you got to fish the NPFL for the first time, and that's how I met you, because I fished the NPFL last year. It's a shame. I really wish I got to know you a little bit more, and got to hang out with you a little bit. The only times I really was able to talk to you and really had good conversations was, after the event was over, when you won, and in between events. And, I know in Kissimmee, we had the church group that we did right before day 1 of practice. So I got to talk to you a little bit, but, got to know you a little bit as well. So tell me about last year. I know you obviously you won Angler of the Year. Your best finish was in Saginaw Bay. You got second in Sandusky. Like your year last year, you were just consistent. You nailed everything on the coffin.
Yeah, but that's one thing about the Angler of the Year I learned a long time ago. If you can just be consistent and not have any real bad tournaments, you'll be right there at the end of the year with a chance to win that AOI. And last year, I started the season on Cumberland with the 15th. I went to Hartwell and I finished 21st. I went to Watts Bar, I finished 24th. We all know what happened to Saginaw. I won that event. And then the next event, like you said, I took second in Sandusky. And then I went down to Toho, and I had a solid event there. And I think I finished 21st there too. So yeah, it just all not having a bad tournament, it all worked out. And at the end of the year, I pulled it off.
And that's awesome. That's a big accomplishment that you did, because last year there was just a lot of ups and downs. I mean, look how Lake Cumberland happened. I mean, we practiced for 3 days. We saw what it was those 3 days. We take a day off. They cancel day 1 and day 2, and then the water goes up 16, 17 feet, from what you originally stopped. And then for you to even get a check, I caught fish that event. They weren't the right size. They were all 17-inch smallmouth. And then for you to do good in that event, and then And obviously Hartwell was a great event as well. Everybody did, everybody was able to catch fish.
That
Waspar was
was
a
fun.
very challenging event as well. But, the Saginaw, I'll tell you what, out of all the tournaments last year, that was my favorite event. And
That,
and
that
it's crazy how you figure the smallmouth game, because I practiced for 2 days of smallmouth and I'm like, what is going on? And then I went over to the marshes and I caught a 4.5 pound largemouth on a frog, and I'm like, I could do this all day long, and I
right.
did. And I got a good check. And no, I can't complain. But that's another thing. You're a smallmouth king. I mean, that's your bread and butter is a whole smallmouth thing. Like when you saw the schedule last year and you noticed that Saginaw and Sandusky were going to be the smallmouth thing, you knew right then that you had a good chance to win it.
Yeah, that was probably what sealed the deal as far as joining the league. I knew if I could do that southern swing in first part of the year and just be consistent and just hang in there, I knew when we went up north, I was going to be, in my comfort zone, and it was a good chance I was going to do well. I had never fished Saginaw before that event, but it's real similar to where I grew up in Beatty Knock and Sturgeon Bay area. So I knew what to look for when I got there. And it didn't take me long to find the fish. I was on an offshore shoal that was just adjacent to a spawning area. I knew they had just got done spawning. So I went and looking for what I would normally fish back home. And after the first day, I found that area. And I checked it every day in practice. And it was phenomenal. It actually was kind of petering off throughout the tournament. During practice, it was actually kind of crazy. It was loaded with big fish, a lot of 4 pound pluses, 21 pounds a day, going into that event. And the first day I had almost 20, but then I had backed it up with a 15, 11, and a 16 something. And as you know, I only won that event by 4 ounces, so it was close.
It was,
But
yeah. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
getting back to the largemouth, that is such a phenomenal largemouth fishery. It's unbelievable. I practiced the largemouth maybe 3 hours on the second day. Got real windy that second day in practice, and I caught so many largemouth, it was unbelievable. I mean, it was like no matter where you pitched or threw a frog or threw a swim jig, you could catch a largemouth bass. And that was my backup plan. I did a little bit of it during the event, but it was really the smallmouth that I pulled it off with.
So yeah, so that event, I think it was day 3 of practice. I shot over to Charity Island. I launched out of All Gray and I ran all the way across, and it was so windy. I'm like, I'm not going to take the chance. I ran all the way back. It took 15 minutes to get there. It took an hour and a half to get back because it was so rough. And I'm like, I'm not going to make that run. So I don't want you to tell me exactly where you're at, but was that a long run for you? Was that
Yes,
rough?
yes, it wasn't as far as the charities. I could see the Charity Islands where I was, but it wasn't quite that far.
Okay, interesting. Gosh, man. And then Sandusky, that was probably the roughest tournament I've that was I mean, you obviously did great, but I had fish up at the Detroit River, and it's probably the only area that I could find smallmouth. And I took the first run that first day, and it took me 2.5 hours to get there. And then I realized I'm not going to make that run anymore. It just wasn't worth it. You beat your boat apart to fish for 3-4 hours. But you end up fishing Sandusky in the past before. You went up there in pre-practice, so you
Yeah,
kind of had a general area of where to find them and stuff like that. And it was basically the similar pattern you were doing in Saginaw, right?
real similar. I was fishing just a little bit deeper on Sandusky than I was Saginaw Bay, but I didn't run far. I only ran out I didn't even run out to Pelee. I ran out to between the Bass Islands and Kelly Islands. There's a series of small humps out there that I had fished years ago, and I checked them in practice, and there was some nice fish on it. So that's what I went with. Like you said, guys that ran all the way to the Detroit River, it was pretty rough them days, and I my hat's off to you making that long run, and because I don't think I would have done that, but maybe I don't know. It's just a little too far for me, I think.
That was the furthest drive I ever had on the boat. And
I think it was like an hour that went by, a little bit over an hour, and I'm looking at the map and I'm like, I'm not even halfway there. I'm in the middle of this lake. Anything could happen. Something happened to me, no one will ever know. But knock on wood, I survived.
Yeah,
So yeah, so
that
like, go
that
ahead.
that that particular tournament, a lot of people don't know, but I actually broke down that first day. Like my electronics, I lost all the power to my electronics up front and my live wells for whatever reason. I got to my spot, I threw my trolling motor down, and I had nothing. And I was live scoping them, so I was in deep trouble. I really only fished for like an hour and a half that first day. Once I got it figured out, I mean, I had my dash torn apart, couldn't figure it out. I went back by my batteries and I just started jiggling wires. And what happened was, is the main power from my batteries going to my shutoff switch, the nut had vibrated loose from all the rough water in practice, and the wire was just barely hanging on there. So once I figured it out, I had about an hour and a half, and I caught 19 pounds real fast. And had a whole day that day. I think Scott went in second place because I backed it up with almost 23 the second day and almost 24 the third day. And I would have had a hard time believing I wouldn't have had at least 21
Yeah,
first day on a full day, which would have won me the tournament.
yeah. What are back-to-back events? That would have been awesome. So going back to what you were mentioning earlier about forward-facing sonar, because that's how you were catching the fish. So obviously, you've been reading and hearing about how it took a 4-day event over at Okeechobee. I think it was like the first time in history, because that is my home lake, that it was won with forward-facing sonar. And then a week later, Lake Seminole happens, and your typical Florida-style lake that you don't really use your electronics, it was won with forward-facing sonar. What
Yes.
do you think that it's completely changing the game? That if you're not attuned to it, if you don't have it, it feels like no matter what fishery you go to, someone's going to figure it out with that device, and it's obviously changing the game. How do you feel about that?
I agree with you. I think it's definitely changing the game. Honestly, I never had forward-facing sonar up until about a year ago, and it's already changed the way I fish. Um, I was always a shallow guy, beat the bank, power fish, and I had a lot of success with it. But I had a buddy, would you know Kyle from the NPF? He's been doing the forward-facing sonar for about 3 years now, and I went out with him a couple times, and he kind of showed me the ins and outs of it. And I'm like, it's almost not fair. I mean, if you don't have it, you're at a disadvantage of that. There's going to be certain times of the year where I don't think you can win without it. Like later in the year when the fish get off ashore and you can get them more schooled up. I think you catch your fish faster. You can see your fish. You can see how the fish are reacting to your bait. It definitely has changed the way I fish. And I think it's going to change the way a lot of other people fish. You're always going to have the guys that are going to fish 3 feet of water or shallow, and there's always fish shallow. I don't care where you go, you're going to be able to catch them shallow. But I definitely think if you don't have forward-facing sonar and know how to use it, you're at a disadvantage.
100%. I totally agree with that. I mean, it's basically almost everywhere you go. If you don't have it, you're out of luck. So 2023, it's right around the corner. Lake Pickwick.
I'm excited. Oh.
I know you're excited. I'm actually more excited about you guys, even though I'm not going to be participating this year. I'm stoked to see you guys. I'm actually going to be there on day 3 to watch the weigh-in and possibly
Nice.
bring my boat out and take some photo shots with some people. So your goals for 2023, you obviously came out fresh from AOI. That's probably in you want to obviously looking forward to try to get into that and accomplishing that again. You're going back to Saginaw, even though it's probably a little bit less than a month later. It's probably going to set up more how Sandusky fished.
That is correct.
So besides Saginaw, what lake are you really looking forward to the most?
I'm really excited about Pickwick. I mean, I fished, I got a little bit of history there in the fall mainly, but we're going to hit it at a good time. And again, it's loaded with big smallmouth. So I try to focus on them. and see if I can make that work. If not, I can catch too. Uh, as far as the other events, I'm excited about. I think I feel I'm a pretty decent spotted bass fisherman, right, Patman? If I got to fish largemouth, that's the way I want to catch them. Shallow, You were there last year, correct?
It was 2 years ago, and I didn't
Two,
fish.
2 years ago.
I didn't fish the NPFL the first year. No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's going to be a shallow bite. We're going to be hitting it during the spawn. I'm excited about that. All the rest of them, I'm not too sure about. I don't know how to take them. I haven't been on any of them, so a bit of a learning curve for me. But my history is I do better on bodies of water, fish before.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, anybody does. Any place that you've ever been to that, even if you pre-practice or been there years before, you're going to do better. Hey, look, out of all the tournaments this year, this past season, I never been to Saginaw. I ended up getting my first check, so I was happy about that.
There you go. You don't fish history. You go there with a fresh mind, and you fish more natural, and I think that's a big part of it.
So you kind of talked about that. You like fishing shallow, but also you like catching smallmouth, and you catch them deep with the forward-facing sonar and so forth. What is your favorite style of fishing?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I like fishing offshore. Especially the last couple of years, I'm really getting good at fishing offshore. I like looking at them with forward-facing sonar. I don't have to look at them, but I grew up in the days of 2D sonar, so I'm pretty proficient at that. But if I've got to pick one way of fishing, I want to be offshore, using forward-facing sonar, drop shotting, dragging a jig. I feel I'm a good jig fisherman. Deep football jigging. If I got to go shallow, I'm a good frog fisherman too.
Frog, that's my favorite thing. That big old topwater bite. So you had a big change this year. You've been with Skeeter, I think I talked to you before, over 20 years, give or take, more or less.
Yes.
And you decided to switch to the Camus, the Earl Bent's type of boats.
Yes.
What made you decide to make that switch when you were with Skeeter for so many years?
Well, there was a couple of things. I took a ride in a Camus. A friend of mine has one, and we were out on the Bay of Green Bay, and it was fairly rough that day. We were in 2, 3, occasional 4-footers, and the ride, the way it handled the waves, I didn't feel the waves like I felt them in my Skeeter. It was just a better ride, smoother ride, and I felt like it handled the water a little bit better than my Skeeter. And then Ken Sports, which is a couple miles from the house, I gave them a call, just kind of talking to them, and they put me on the pro team. So I went and talked to them. They gave me a deal I couldn't resist. Between the good ride, the pro team deal, I just couldn't pass up the deal. It's a really nice boat. Now I was down to Pickwick a few weeks ago before the cutoff, and I broke my Mercury in, and I'll tell you what, that Mercury motor, I'm pretty impressed with it. I was a Yamaha guy for 20 years. I never thought I would be in a boat with any other motor but a Yamaha. But when you start that Mercury and you hear that growl, I call it the growl. That I'll tell you what, it changed me, and I had to have one of them. And then the mid range in that Mercury, tell you what, it gets you up and goes right now. It's a lot more responsive than the Yamaha. So yeah, as of right now, I'm a big fan of the Mercury. Well, time will tell if I stay with them, but as of right now, I'm really liking it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm contemplating next year, most likely going to end up getting a new boat. And I love my Triton. I absolutely love that boat. It's a good offshore boat, good rough riding boat. It would be hard to get rid of it. And I know that, it being a 20, it's crazy because like years ago, you would have a boat and it'll last you for like 5, 6, 8, 10 years.
Yeah.
Now it's like everybody changes boats every year or every 2 years, every 3 years.
Right.
So it's like, it's coming to the time I got to change my boat. I don't even know if I want to because I absolutely love that boat. The front deck's huge and everything. But if I were to choose another boat, it'd probably be a Camus. I like how Earl Bentz made the Triton, and then now he founded Camus. So and I've been on the Camus. It's a nice boat. if I were gonna do one, it would be a 21 footer. I like a big boat. I don't like a small boat. I don't care about going 75, 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I'm more about the luxury. If it's
Mhm.
rough and it can handle it, that's where I'd rather be at.
Yep, and the older you get, the more you enjoy that luxury. I'll tell you, that's what I got. I got the CX-21. I was in a 20-foot Skeeter, and I just felt I was getting beat up more than I needed to. I'm 56 years old, and I don't handle them rough rides like I did 10, 15 years ago. So yeah, that bigger boat, that softer ride, that's what sold me.
I'm surprised that 20-foot Skeeter made it all the way over to Saginaw and Sandusky in those rough waters. You know how to ride them, so.
Well, I'm born and raised on the Great Lakes. That's all I know.
So, it's crazy going, changing subjects and topics. Being up north, I've gotten really fond with the fishing up north. When I got to experience Saginaw and how good the smallmouth fishing was, and then you go shallow and there's largemouth galore. I mean, no matter what you throw, like you said, you can catch one. It'd be 2 to 4 to 5 pounds. It's just you catch a ton of fish. And after that event, I got a chance to go over to Grand Traverse Bay up in Lake Michigan. And, my whole goal during that event was to catch a smallmouth. And I never got to catch one in Saginaw. So when I went up to Lake Michigan, they were still on beds after that tournament.
Oh,
And I was
crazy.
picking them off. I had like 20 pounds. It was the coolest, funnest time I ever had. It was like only a 4 or 5 hour span. But the water was crystal clear. There's boulders everywhere. I mean,
Yeah,
I feel like the further you go up north, it's just uninhabitable fishing areas that people haven't really got the chance to fish. And
that's true.
and you came from the Sturgeon Bay area, which is up in Green Bay. I think it was back in 2020 or 2019. 2020, Rusty Skowinski, he won the FLW title championship in Sturgeon Bay. How is it fishing up north? I mean, is it uncharted stuff? Is it easier to locate, to find the fish, to catch a fish, or is it still a big challenge to try to find them?
No, it's not a big challenge. The Sturgeon Bay area over the last 10 years has got a little harder to catch them because of all the fishing pressure. But once you get away from Sturgeon Bay, if you get up to northern Door County, parts of Green Bay, the west shore of Green Bay, Beatty Knock, there's fish over there that's never seen a bait. And I'll tell you what, up in Beatty Knock, I swear they're the dumbest smallmouth in the world. I mean, you can sight fish them in July, August, not on the beds, but they just stay shallow year round. And there was a club tournament probably 5, 6 years ago where I weighed 30 pounds 2 days in a row, and I looked at every one of them, caught them in August, 30 pounds a day.
That's insane. That's
Yep.
insane.
You throw a spinner bait out, and you see these big footballs coming out and just behind every boulder to chase it down, and it's a competition to see who's going to get it first. And if they don't hit it, you just let it fall and you throw a 2 behind it, and it's a guaranteed fish every time.
That is so cool. And that's Lake Michigan, right? Sturgeon Bay?
Yep, Sturgeon Bay and the Bay of Green Bay. The bay actually feeds into Lake Michigan. So does Big and Little Beatty Knot feeds into Lake Michigan. They're just bays off the main body of water, kind of like Traverse City Bay.
Okay, makes sense. So you fish from what I know, you fish 3 out of the 5 Great Lakes. Have you ever fished Oneida?
I fished Oneida Lake, yes.
What about Lake Superior?
I have fished it, not tournaments, but I have fished it years ago for smallmouth. Chemagowan Bay, I think they call it. It's a trophy fishery for smallmouth. You can only keep 1 fish. It has to be over 21 inches. Everything else is catch and release.
And
But it's loaded with big smallmouth.
loaded. And from what I've read, Superior is just really, really deep, isn't it?
It's a deep, cold one, yeah. And they spawn real late there too.
They do. Interesting. That's pretty cool. That's cool to know. I want to eventually go up and venture in those areas and stuff like that, especially up in the UP, north of Mackinac. There's just a lot of uncharted areas that I really want to venture.
There's so many fish that have never seen a bait. And I was lucky enough to grow up there. So, I got to experience that my whole life. And that's what made me the smallmouth fisherman I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's get off subject. Let's talk a little bit about football. I know you're a huge, huge Packers fan. You only live, what, a few minutes from the stadium?
I'm within 3 miles.
So what was it like, going to games and stuff like that? How is it?
Well,
The
in
atmosphere.
Green Bay, if you're not a Packer fan, there's something wrong with you because, the Green Bay Packers have got a great history with Vince Lombardi, and then, then early on, and then once again, you had Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, and I mean they have such a reputation of being a winning team. And if Green Bay is owned by the city of Green Bay, we don't have an owner. It's owned by the town of Green Bay, the city of Green Bay. So it's just a big part of everybody's heritage in that area to be a Packer fan. As far as going to the games, I'm lucky enough to work for a company that actually owns 2 boxes, and I periodically can get tickets through the company for free and go sit in the boxes. But I actually enjoy sitting in the stands more than I do the boxes because you get to get tight into with the crowd and high fiving everybody, and it's just a great atmosphere. I mean, if anybody has never been to Lambeau Field, they should put it on their bucket list and just take a trip to Green Bay and just experience it because it's a great place to go see a football game.
That is pretty cool. That is cool. Yeah, that's a bucket list thing because I'm a huge NFL guy, big Tennessee Titans fan, and one of my bucket lists is to go see a game in Lambeau. Would have loved to see Favre play, but you probably got the chance to see him play. How was that? Getting to see him live.
It was a heck of an experience. I mean, he was a heck of a quarterback. They called him the gunslinger, and it was for a reason. I mean, that guy could throw a football, and he wasn't afraid to put that ball anywhere. Granted, he threw his share of interceptions doing that, but he also did have a lot of plays that were unbelievable plays that I don't think anybody else could have put that ball in that window, except for maybe Aaron Rodgers. He's kind of that way too. But yeah, growing up with Brett Favre is a heck of an experience. He was one hell of a quarterback.
So you go from one drama king, Favre, to another one, Aaron Rodgers. He's so strange, but
he is strange.
yeah, but they're all strange. All those NFL guys are just a little bit abnormal. I mean, he was abnormal enough to take a 4-day retreat in a chamber and locked for 4 days with no cell phone, nothing to meditate and just trying to figure out if he really wants to play again. Are you ready to move on from Aaron Rodgers to go ahead and see how Jordan Love does, or do you want to salvage another couple more years of A-Rod?
Me personally, I'm ready to move on. I think the last couple of years has kind of held the team hostage. Am I going to play? Am I not going to play? I think it's time to move on. As much as I don't want to say that, because he did so much for our community and for the team, but the last couple of years with all the drama, I think most people are ready to move on. I really do. We've got Jordan Love now, and let's see what he can do. We picked him for first round pick. I think it's time to see what we got, and if it ain't what we think he is, let's move on and find somebody that can fill that role. But as far as Rodgers, you can't take away what he's done. He's just the last couple of years, he's just too much drama for me, I think.
Yeah, it's a little bit drama. I mean, it could be he blames the organization for certain things, and and not, I remember when he had that press conference and saying how the organization never took care of their players and stuff. But it's a business.
It's a business.
If you're like Jordan Nelson and Randall Cobb and Clay Matthews and those guys that were milestones with that team, and they got older, they started deteriorating. It's time to let them go. It's a business. I feel like they reached for the Jordan Love thing. I feel like they should have drafted a receiver or someone to kind of help Aaron Rodgers.
Agreed.
I don't think they've ever really kind of helped them. They had Devontae Adams, but he was kind of always injury prone, and when he wasn't, he was awesome. But I think they're ready. I think it's ready for them to move on. They need to draft. They need to either trade him for some draft assets so you kind of just use him to build around Jordan Love, or he needs to just retire. Hopefully Tennessee gets Aaron Rodgers.
So another thing about Rodgers, he takes a quarter of our salary cap every year. I mean, he's due $58 million this year. If he was really, really wanting to win, take a little less money, free up some of that cap space so we can put some good receivers around him. I mean, that was his excuse last year. He had young receivers, and they're going to be good receivers. But, they were rookies. I mean, free up some of that cap, restructure your contract. That's what Brady did all them years. He could have got that $50 million, but instead he took $25 million and freed up $25 million for the team to go get other players to put around him. And that's why he was successful. You don't see that out of Rodgers.
No. Yeah. Yeah. You don't
he's got enough money.
He does got a lot of money. He's got enough. Especially when he takes these 4-day expenditures over in a dark chamber all by himself. So besides football, what other sports are you into? You like hunting? I know you like hunting.
Oh yeah, I'm a big whitetail hunter. Basketball, I've been really getting into the basketball NBA lately. Milwaukee Bucks are solid this year, so I've been kind of following them a little bit. But other than fishing, hunting, and a little bit of basketball, that's about all I do. And growing up, I played football in high school. I wrestled, but other than that, I like to fish and hunt. And if I'm not on the water, I'm in the woods or getting ready for fall hunting, putting food plots in, running cameras, things like that.
You're one of the few guys that I know that loves fishing, likes football, but actually likes NBA basketball because there's not a lot of them out there. I love NBA basketball. I love, besides the politics about it, I hate when people bring the politics with sports and then they end up disliking sports. Forget the politics. Enjoy the game and what's in front of you, and I love NBA. I'm a big LeBron fan. I like watching him, chase Kareem to get the highest scoring points in NBA history. I love Giannis. He's a Giannis, Middleton, Brooke Lopez, Drew Holiday, all those guys. I mean, you guys, you guys gonna have a good team this year.
They're solid. Yeah, they're solid.
They're solid. So, but yeah, Gary, dude, it was awesome getting to know you a little bit more. I wish I really did get to know you a lot more last year. And
yeah, it's too bad we didn't get together and talk a little more.
Definitely.
I'm kind of a loner type guy. I don't spend a lot of time talking to other people. It's my nature. Part of that is I don't want to. Not that I don't like talking to people. It's just I don't want to hear what other people are doing because it gets in my head. I like focusing on me and then executing the best I can. And it's got me a long ways so far in my career. And I hate to break that pattern, but I'm really an approachable guy out there. I mean, if somebody comes up to me and wants to talk to me, I'm more than happy to talk. But I'm not the type of guy that goes out and just looks for friends either. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, dude, like I said, I really appreciate you coming on. Really enjoyed this interview. I'm looking forward to how you do in Pickwick and Pickwick, can't even talk, Pickwick, and for the rest of the year. I will be there on day 3 to see on the way, and hopefully you end up holding that shield again.
Yeah, I sure hope so. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to look for you, and I'm going to come say hi to you and shake your hand.
All right, Gary. Well, you have a great rest of the week. Stay warm, have fun in Savannah, and make sure you keep a light on with those ghosts.
Yep, sure will. Thank you.
All right, man. You have a good day.
Yep, have a good night, bud. Bye.
All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap. Had a great interview with Gary Adkins. Super stellar guy. Had just a phenomenal year last year. Could not go any wrong. Every event that he approached, he whether he got a check or was up there. Again, winning the Angler of the Year in your first season in the NPFL was a pretty high accomplishment, especially with all the anglers that you compete against. I mean, you got some studs that fished that, and kudos to him. Congratulations, Gary, and thank you again for having a chance to come on here and showcasing your what you did this past season and what your goals are. So I'm definitely looking forward to see how you do in Lake Pickwick. I'm looking forward to how all the MPFL anglers are, looking forward to going to Lake Pickwick. So I think it's going to be a great event. They start practice March 12th, I believe. I think March 11th, 12th. It's on a Sunday. So I'm looking forward to that event. I do want to end this episode to just go ahead and mention a couple of my sponsors. You guys know that I've been with Bruiser Baits for quite some time. I preached about how good Steve Dial is, so please contact him. Ask him about some customs. He can kind of get you all squared away. We also have a really, we're starting to come out with some hard baits. You guys know about Flat Out Tungsten. He's got that line as well. His weights are unbelievable. So, dude, guys, check out Bruiser Baits. Either go online to order some customs, or if you guys know Steve personally and you have his number, shoot him a text and tell him that I sent you. In hopes, man, maybe he can go ahead and send me a couple of free baits on my side. I'm just kidding. But anyways, yeah, Bruiser Baits, standout company. I've been with them, like I said, for 5+ years, so please contact Steve. I've been with Eternal for the last couple of years, and I've preached this as well. Contact Spencer. He can kind of get you all squared away. He'll get you a good pro deal. Lithium companies. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have lithium companies, and some people do it right, some people do it wrong. But the thing with what stands out about Eternal, it's Spencer. He's the type of guy they'll work with you. So hit him up. He'll get you all squared away. You guys know I've been with Arc Rods for quite some time as well. They came out with those new gravity reels, the G3, G5, G7. I own all 3 of them, all 3 different series. They're all great, work flawlessly. I talked to you about that before. They also got new hard baits in stock. So go on their website and check out Arc Rods. Their rods, again, that's the reason why I decided to stick with Arc, was those rods were bad to the bone. Never really broke any rods before when I'm setting the hook on a fish, boat flipping a fish. Usually any rod that I've broken in the past, it's because of my fault, whether I step on it or I get it tangled up with a branch, I pick it up on a tip, it happens. That's a user mistake. So again, guys, go online, check out Arc Rods, great customer service. If there's any questions, obviously you guys can contact me. And last but not least, True Grit Tackle. My buddy Ryan Sheffield, he is the man when it comes to making custom jigs. You're more than welcome to give him a shout. He can kind of get you going on some jig patterns, different colors, different skirts, different jig heads. Just give him a shout, bug him, please, notoriously. Honestly, he's a great dude, super genuine. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and please subscribe, comment, send me some messages, whether things that I can do to better the show. I know that there's some things that I can work on, and hopefully that I can entice a little bit more audience to go ahead and get more views and more subscribes. And so yeah, guys, thank you again for tuning in. My next guest for next week, and I'm going to be doing these shows on Monday now, so next week I'm going to be interviewing Jonathan Kelly. He fishes the Bassmaster Elites. I got to know Jonathan Kelly last year at ICAST for the first time, and guy's really super cool dude. And so I'm looking forward to getting to know him a little bit more from what I know from him at ICAST. And hopefully you guys will like the show. And again, guys, please subscribe, help me out as I'll help you guys out. Thank you guys, and tight lines.